Hi everyone, this is Kyle. I did a video yesterday just giving some box office updates for the Hunger Games prequel for the Marvels. And now the Hunger Games has been out for a shorter period than the Marvels, and it's made more money than the Marvels, and the Marvels still has not hit $200 million at the box office. I did a little video last week just with a box office update for the Marvels, and it was in like the $190 million range, just under $200 million. And then when the weekend passes and I check the box office again, it still has not reached $200 million, so it basically made nothing over the weekend. And now today we have this report. This is from thatparkplace.com. Disney throws in the towel for the Marvels, says we will stop weekend reporting of international global grosses on this title. The Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios have officially given up on the Brie Larson-led The Marvels film at the box office. Variety reports that the company sent out a memo to certain press outlets announcing, with the Marvels box office now winding down, we will stop weekend reporting of international global grosses on this title. The announcement comes after the film only grossed $2.5 million in its fourth weekend at the domestic box office. And again, when I checked the Marvel's numbers last week, they were somewhere in the $190 million range, somewhere under $200 million, and I check again as the weekend passes, it's still under $200 million. It made basically nothing over the past week. And here's Variety, this is where the report comes from. Now, the film only grossed $80.7 million domestically, $116.3 million internationally, for $197 million globally. Yep, right here. Those numbers make the film the worst grossing Marvel Cinematic Universe entry in history. The previous worst performing film was 2008's The Incredible Hulk. It grossed $265 million without adjusting for inflation. Just for comparison's sake, The Incredible Hulk grossed $4.8 million in its fourth weekend. The film would be in theaters for 12 weeks. It was released in June and stayed in the box office until August. Then another comparison here, looking at more recent MCU films that struggled, such as Black Widow, showed just how terribly the Marvels has performed. Black Widow grossed $183.6 million domestically and another $196 million internationally for a global gross of $379.7 million. The film grossed $6.4 million in its fourth opening weekend. It stayed at the box office for 14 weeks from July to October. Yeah, so fourth weekend, $6.4 million for Black Widow. Fourth weekend, $4.8 million for The Incredible Hulk. And this film was a good 15 years ago, so you have inflation, stuff like that to consider. The Marvels, fourth weekend, only $2.5 million. And yeah, and this article interprets this as Disney is surrendering, or they're throwing in the towel, admitting that Marvels is a failure. And yeah, I have to agree. I mean, the fact that Disney says we're going to stop reporting the numbers, to me it's a bit of a sign that Disney doesn't want any more embarrassment over how bad this movie's done. I mean, for an average peasant like myself on YouTube.com, this kind of story, yeah, it is a bit funny. If you're Disney, this is kind of embarrassing, I would have to think. I mean, if you're Disney, I mean, vast majority of your movies over the past couple of years, they've been flopping. I mean, there were a few exceptions. I mean, this past year, you could say Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that didn't do bad, but it did have a huge budget. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that made quite a bit of money too, about the same amount as Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But again, big production budget. I guess Avatar The Way of Water, that technically is a Disney movie because Disney owns 20th Century Studios, but did Disney really have anything to do with the success of that movie? I'm probably going to say no. The reason the film will be a flop is due to its massive production budget. Carolyn Reed at Forbes previously reported the film's production budget clocked in at $274 million as of September 2022. Yeah, and I don't think the Marvels is even going to make its production budget. And the production budget is a big factor as to why the Hunger Games is going to be breaking even and probably making some money. I mean, the Hunger Games prequel, I mean, it's not making a huge amount of money, I would say, in theaters, but since its production budget is much smaller than your typical Marvel movie, I don't know if it would be considered to be a flop or not, because I'm pretty sure it's going to break even. But back to this Marvel budget, $274 million. However, Reed noted Marvel Studios did receive a $55 million tax credit. That brought the film's net budget down to $219.8 million. Yet the production budget did not include any production expenses in 2023 and did not include post-production expenses either. Reed explained that the film's budget is expected to soar in the next set of financial statements as almost a year of post-production and extensive reshoots took place after the latest financial statements were filed. If the film's total costs come to around $300 million, which is highly likely, the movie will likely lose a Walt Disney Company not just $200 million, but upwards of $200 million. At a $300 million production budget, the break-even for the movie is somewhere around $750 million plus when you factor in the cut that theaters take from the box office grosses as well as Disney's advertising spend for the movie. Folks, that's a lot of money to lose from just one movie. Whether or not the Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios will learn the right lessons from this massive failure, time will tell, but as it stands now, it does not appear to be the case. Disney CEO Bob Iger recently placed the blame on the film's failure on a certain world event that took place a couple of years ago and a lack of executive oversight. Now, I think a lot of it is you need to just make better movies. Now, me, I have not seen the Marvels movie. I'm kind of at a point now where I'm not giving Disney my money anymore. Now, Disney, over the last few years, they have earned a bit of a reputation for pushing some agendas in their content for, I don't know, call it going woke, call it current daying their content, whatever term or phrase you want to use. And it's gotten to a point where a lot of people, they're not going to give Disney their money anymore. They no longer trust Disney. I mean, parents don't really trust Disney anymore, or at least a lot of them don't. Now, the Marvels movie, I've heard it's just not that good. There's also a factor of, most comic book fans are men, and this movie's directed a bit more at women, so there's also that factor to consider. Now, exactly how woke is this movie, or how much has this movie been current day, whatever phrase you want to use. I've heard there's a little bit of stuff like that in there. I mean, the biggest thing I've heard is it's just not that good a movie, not all that well written. But you could say that the last few years of Disney current daying their content may have played a part in why a movie like The Marvels is doing so bad, and why basically every movie Disney's making now is doing bad. I mean, Wish came out, a week and a half ago, and that movie's not doing well in theaters at all either. I mean, Disney's gained a reputation of pushing certain stuff into their movies and their shows, and as a result, you do have a lot of people out there, myself included, who we don't give Disney our money anymore. So yeah, an average peasant on YouTube.com like myself, I do find a headline like this funny. I mean, if you're Disney, this has to be a little bit embarrassing. And I do agree with this article that this is them conceding that this movie has failed. And it's not going to be making that much money anymore. I mean, it's seen a record drop-off from its first weekend to its second weekend. The past week, it's basically made nothing. So, yeah, I don't know how much more money this movie's going to make. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.